Good afternoon. We're on Proteus Ultra here on the Aussie dollar, US dollar, AUD USD, looking for an opportunity here. We're looking at the H4 time frame, which is currently to the long side, and the other time frames are slowly catching up. What that essentially translates to is that we've been in a bearish correction for the time being up until now, and since the longer term movement is to the high side and the shorter time frames are slowly getting into the long side momentum as well, we have to wait for ITM Proteus to give us a leading signal to go long and engage in a long trade here on a slightly longer time frame. When you're dealing with an H4 time frame, you should ideally look for a trade that's at least 30 minutes long. So we're going to shoot for a 30-minute trade here to expire at 2 p.m. GMT for a $100 investment. Going back to the chart here just to check if the leading signal is present, and there's a bit of a correction. We'll let that correction pan out, give ourselves a better entry to get into. And the leading indicator on the right hand side is also pointing to the long side. M1, M5 and M15 have successfully turned long. H4 is long. M30 and H1 are still to get there. So since we have a better entry, we will now execute this long side binary option on the Aussie dollar, US dollar to expire in the next 29 minutes and 15 seconds here. On this binary option. We're into the trade now, and we'll come back to you before expiry, which is roughly 30 minutes away. On the chart, as you can see, the price has hit that retracement area and is now going to be going long here shortly if the projection is correct, which there is a very high probability of being correct. H4 is long, M1, M5 and M15 have turned long, followed by M30 and H1 in due course. So we'll come back to you just before expiry. Alright, back again, roughly 22 seconds remaining on this AUD USD trade here to expire at 1400 hours, 2 p.m. GMT. As you can see, price has stayed in the money for quite a long time here, almost the majority duration. And this is how we took the trade using Proteus Ultra. Proteus Ultra was pointing a leading signal towards the long side, followed by H4, the H4 time frame, 4-hour time frame pointing to the long side, and the lower time frames moving into the long territory after a bearish correction that you can still see has yet to change on the M30 and H1 timeframes. Asset volatility was good at the time the trade was taken, and we embarked on a trade successfully for a fairly decent time frame, such as 30 minutes on this trade. When you're taking the 4-hour chart or the 4-hour time frames aggregate confluence metrics on Proteus Ultra into consideration, what you're essentially doing is taking a longer term trade than say 5 to 10 minutes. In such cases, you should allow for at least 30 minutes in your expiry time, and that can be a 30-minute expiry itself or higher. In our case, we started at 1:30 to expire at 1400 hours or 2 p.m. GMT. The trade has now expired very comfortably. This was a very comfortable AUD USD trade based on that multi-time frame analysis, as well as the final signal being given by ITM Proteus Ultra's leading indicator on the right-hand side that turned to the long side and said, yes, it is now appropriate to enter into this trade. What we also did at the beginning of the trade was wait for that sharp retracement that was happening to the short side, not really worrying about that retracement too much, as a lot of traders do worry about a sharp move in one direction and think, oh god, that's invalidated their trade idea. Not at all. A sharp retracement when you're about to execute an entry in such cases is actually a good omen, because you're looking at a much better entry point, which is exactly what happened in our case. Had we not taken the trade at that point, we would still have expired in the money, but the trade would just have been a bit closer to the entry point upon expiry, but still have expired in the money. So this was overall a very, very good trade taken using ITM Proteus Ultra with multiple confluence on multiple time frames, especially the 4-hour time frame. And working our way backwards from the M1, M5 and M15 timeframes on the confluence side, and taking the final trade based on a decision on the leading indicator side on the right hand side, telling us that yes, a high trade is now valid with a high probability of success. Thank you.